15 billion miles from Earth, NASA's Voyager One just recorded 305 objects moving in perfect formation.
NASA says its Voyager One probe, the most distant human-made object in the universe, is sending usable information to Earth again, after months of spouting gibberish.
Where the nearest star is 4 light-years away. That's not dust. That's not debris. It's a synchronized fleet gliding through the void with no engines, no heat signatures, and movements that violate everything we know about physics. And it all began with a tiny blip in the data stream. Echoes in the dark. At first, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory thought it was just noise. When Dr. Eliza Karna, the mission specialist who spotted it, first saw the data, she ran the diagnostics 3 times. The magnetometer showed organized movement. The plasma sensors detected rhythmic pulses. Something out there wasn't just moving, it was steering. And in interstellar space, where the nearest anything is light-years away, that's impossible. In space, about 1% of the mass floats as dust, tiny particles that absorb and scatter radiation. Odd readings happen all the time, but this flicker was different. Dr. Karna said it felt like shouting into a canyon for decades. And finally, something shouts back. The blip was a faint reflection of light caught by Voyager's sensors. At first, it seemed too small to matter, but over hours and days, that flicker morphed into a pattern. The object did things that were physically impossible. No thruster burns, no momentum conservation. Like someone hitting undo on physics itself. It curved, it sped up, it didn't tumble like a rock. Instead, it glided as if guided from within. When the plasma wave instruments recorded a focused shift, the team sat up and paid attention. A systems analyst noticed the movement was deliberate, almost machine-like. Could it be that something out there was steering this object? In the quiet physics of space, nothing moves with purpose unless something makes it. As Voyager sent back more data, scientists faced a question they never expected to ask. What moves like a machine, but isn't one of ours? Suddenly, the void between stars felt less empty. That tiny anomaly rippled through NASA's halls, stirring both wonder and unease. And that ripple was only the start of a story far bigger than anyone could have guessed. The mystery unfolds. With every new packet of data, the object's movement became clearer. The object accelerated to speeds that would tear any known spacecraft apart, then stopped instantly. No deceleration, no physics. NASA's models crashed trying to calculate the energy required. One engineer described it as watching someone delete the laws of motion. It never drifted aimlessly. Data showed it changed direction by tiny degrees, as if correcting its path. Voyager's instruments recorded shifts in magnetic fields that matched the object's course, hinting at something more than a piece of space rock. The first step was to rule out known causes. Could it be a hidden comet or asteroids clumped together? Number. Those move according to gravity and tumble randomly through space. Could it be solar wind pushing dust? Again, no. Solar wind flows outward from our sun, and at Voyager's distance, its force is too weak to drive such smooth motion. Next, the team turned to computer models. They simulated an object of the same size and shape, floating in the interstellar medium. Under all known forces, it would drift like a leaf in a stream, slow, erratic, at the mercy of random currents. Yet the real object steered itself. The models simply couldn't match Voyager's readings. Speculation ran wild. Some whispered about alien probes, drones sent by an intelligence beyond our own. Others argued for natural phenomena we don't yet know. Ice crystal formations, magnetic whirls, phantom energy fields. Hypotheses flew, each more exotic than the last. But none fit all the data. Voyager's magnetometer captured something that made engineers question their instruments. A pulse too perfect for nature, too organized for coincidence. It pulsed at intervals too regular to be random, like a heartbeat or a signal. That tiny pulse lined up exactly with the object's quick turn in its path. Now, the evidence leaned towards something artificial. When an object in empty space sends back a heartbeat, it starts to feel alive. For decades, Voyager has been humanity's lone traveler in deep space. It carries our hopes, our data, and a record of who we are. Now it was tracking something that might be tracking us, or at least watching this boundary between star systems. And if these objects can track Voyager from 15 billion miles away, they can track anything, including the device you're watching this on. The golden record, intended as a greeting, suddenly seemed like a beacon. The team at JPL went into high gear. Engineers rechecked every sensor. Scientists pored over equations. The data slipped through antennas into secure networks and into every corner of NASA's analysis rooms. Across the globe, astronomers tuned giant radio dishes to the spot where Voyager last saw the object. Telescopes searched for any sign of light or heat. Planetary scientists, astrophysicists, and SETI researchers joined forces. Yet nothing on Earth could match the intimacy of Voyager's close-range view. The spacecraft alone could see the fine details of motion and magnetism. Every byte it sent back was precious, because buried in that data was proof that we'd already been found. And so, the mystery remains. What is this object, moving with purpose, so far from home? Is it a wandering remnant of some ancient civilization? A natural marvel we can't yet explain? Or the first sign that we are no longer alone in the sea of stars? The space between us. Dr. Lucas Hang had debunked alien sightings for 20 years, but staring at Voyager's data, his hands were shaking. This wasn't a UFO enthusiast's blurry photo. This was hard data from humanity's most distant probe, showing movements that shouldn't exist. Unsure of where to go from here, he started where they normally do. A checklist. Was it an asteroid? Number too smooth, too sharp in its movements. Comet? No trail, no icy vapor. Moon? Not even close. This thing wasn't glowing, wasn't reflecting heat, and wasn't bending light in any way that made sense. Dust? Not a chance. Dust doesn't make clean turns mid-drift. It just floats and scatters. As he stared at his screen, rubbing his forehead, he was trying to figure out what it could be. He'd run every simulation he could think of: gravitational pulls, solar pressure, unknown space currents. But no matter how many times he tried, nothing fit. The object wasn't just odd, it was behaving like it didn't care about the usual rules. Every object in space follows rules we can calculate down to the millimeter. These didn't. They moved like space itself was different around them. Things orbit, spiral, or drift. They fall into patterns that can be charted and mapped. Even chaos in space has structure. One exciting example is the arches of chaos. These arches are like invisible bridges formed by gravity streams around special spots called Lagrange points. From these points, safe and unstable paths flow outward. Together, they shape winding patterns that guide comets, asteroids, and spacecraft across the solar system. No one can see them directly, but scientists map these arches with math and careful observations. They show even the most tangled paths have a map. At the same time, ice in space can seem formless and soft, but it, too, hides patterns. High above planets, in comets, and around moons, space ice can join into clusters. When studied up close, this ice shows an organized inner grid. Its atoms line up in repeating patterns that give the ice traits not found on Earth. Even though it floats in the cold corners of space, this ice obeys clear rules in its build. Together, the arches of chaos and the hidden grids in space ice prove that chaos and order can live side by side. But this object zigged where it should have zagged. It moved like it had somewhere to be. And then, an uncomfortable truth began to sink in. This wasn't just unknown, it was unnatural. Something, or someone had made this thing, or was controlling it. It wasn't just drifting, it was navigating. That thought hit the team hard, because if something was guiding it, then something out there might be watching. Just as they were trying to come to terms with that idea, something even more surprising happened. Signal twin. Then Voyager 2 detected the exact same signal, not similar, identical, down to the microsecond timing. Two probes, 2 billion miles apart, recording the same impossible pulse. That's when NASA knew this wasn't equipment failure. Something was broadcasting across our entire solar system. Its high-gain antenna still links it to mission control, and 3 radioisotope thermoelectric generators power its vital systems despite fading output. What Voyager sent back to Earth shocked even experienced scientists. It recorded the exact same pattern, a magnetic fluctuation, steady and repeating. A signal. 2 separate spacecraft. 2 different locations in space. One signal. That changed everything. This wasn't a glitch. These weren't faulty sensors. This was real. Whatever Voyager 1 had seen, Voyager 2 was now seeing too. That meant the object, or whatever was behind it, wasn't in one place. It was moving, or there were more of them. At the European Space Agency, analyst Moritz Fontaine explained it like this. It's like two lighthouses blinking at each other and both catching a glimpse of something slipping between them. That one description painted a picture the world couldn't ignore. Something was passing through the darkness, quietly, precisely, and now it had revealed itself twice. The team huddled together over their data. Weeks passed, signals were checked, readings compared. But one thing was clear: this wasn't random. It was planned. And if it was planned, then someone had a plan. Now the scientists weren't just staring at deep space, they were staring into the unknown. Something had entered the space between stars, and it was leaving clues behind. The full telemetry download took 18 hours. When it finished, the room went silent. 305 objects, not scattered, not random. A perfect formation maintaining distances down to the meter, 15 billion miles from the nearest star. They kept checking for errors. There weren't any. That's when the fear set in. Imagine 305 tiny dancers gliding past Voyager One, each one holding its place in a perfect arc. No wobble, no drift, no sign of random motion. There were no heat trails or glowing tails, nothing aged or falling apart. Instead, each object sent back rhythmic pulses through the plasma waves, like a steady drumbeat, echoing across billions of miles. At first, some scientists hoped it was a glitch, maybe a handful of misreadings, but the data was too clear. Every object showed the same precise path. Every pulse matched the others. They weren't fragments breaking off a comet, nor bits of ancient ice shimmering in the sun. They were moving with purpose. In deep space, tiny differences in speed or pull should scatter a group over time. Gravity tugs, solar pressure, random bumps. Everything pulls them apart. Yet these objects stayed together, as if held by invisible threads. Scientists compared it to a flock of birds flying in a perfect V, or a school of fish weaving through the ocean. But this was space. No air, no water, no instinct. Only silicon, metal, and mystery. The more the team looked, the colder they felt. A single odd object might be a quirk of nature. But 305, all synchronized like this? That pointed to one thing: design. Something, or someone, had built this formation and sent it across the stars. For the first time, the vast emptiness between solar systems seemed less empty. Pulse logic. The signals weren't random, they were counting. Binary at first, on-off, then sequences, 2 pulses, 3 pulses, 5, 8, 13. The Fibonacci sequence, transmitted from the void. Random nature doesn't count in mathematical sequences. Intelligence does. These weren't random pulses from stars or cosmic dust. They were steady beats, loops of energy that looked like messages. Voyager's plasma wave sensors recorded sequences that rose and fell with a crisp regularity, almost like dots and dashes in Morse code. Dr. Serena Patel from California Institute of Technology, Caltech, stared at the charts and said, "This feels less like nature and more like a language." The waves had short loops, long loops, and pauses, just like letters and words. The 305 objects weren't just floating past Voyager One. They were talking to each other. Each pulse seemed to ping the next object in line, keeping the whole formation in sync. ESA analyst Eric Lousy went so far as to call it a probe network, but NASA quickly asked him to hold off on bold claims. Even skeptics joined in. Famous astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson said the data isn't random, there's structure here. To make sure it wasn't a glitch, the team powered up Voyager's oldest backup telemetry channel, one that hadn't run since the 1990s. It came online perfectly, and the pulses, paths, and speeds all matched. Twice the systems, twice the proof. Then came the really strange part: propulsion. There were no glowing exhausts, no ion trails, no flash of thrusters. Yet Doppler measurements showed the objects speeding up, slowing down, and steering with precision. Some moved faster than any human-made craft ever has. In fact, a few even topped the escape velocity of the entire Milky Way. That means they had enough speed to break free from our galaxy's pull. Dr. Caleb Ramirez from MIT said, "They're not drifting, they're navigating." But it wasn't just speed that astonished him, it was their path. The objects steered clear of planets, moons, and even our sun. It was as if they were on a mission far beyond our neighborhood, and we weren't on the guest list. The lack of visible engines had theorists scratching their heads. No ion drives, no nuclear pulses, no solar sails catching sunlight. Instead, the group moved as if they were riding ripples in space itself. Theoretical physicist Elena Reyes described it this way: "It's not flying, as we understand flight. It's more like surfing on a medium we don't yet know how to feel. Imagine bending the fabric of space to carry you forward. No fuel, no flame, just motion." The discovery challenged everything we thought we knew about physics. Either there are natural forces we haven't yet discovered, or there's technology out there far beyond our wildest dreams or fears. These objects carried messages and moved with a level of control that hinted at a maker, or makers, who knew the secret of space itself. Voyager One had found more than empty darkness. It had unearthed a mystery of signals and silent engines, of formation flights and hidden forces. Ground-level contact. While NASA's experts pored over Voyager's raw data, a strange ripple reached Earth. In backyards and basements around the world, amateur radio operators, people with homemade antennas and secondhand radios, started picking up odd pulses. At first, they thought it was just static or local interference. Weird signals pop up all the time, right? But then the reports began to line up. The timestamps on these backyard recordings matched the exact hours when Voyager had logged its strongest plasma waves. Suddenly, these hobbyist setups weren't outliers. They were echoing Voyager's own findings, billions of miles away. These signals were faint, barely above the hiss, but they carried patterns and rhythms too clean to be random noise. Some radio fans thought the pulses were bouncing off high-altitude layers of Earth's atmosphere, like sound echoing in a canyon. Others guessed space debris or magnetic field quirks might reflect the waves back down. Yet none of these ideas fit the timing or the structure of the signals. So a big question took shape. Was this bleed-through accidental, or was it on purpose? Was something out there checking if we were listening, or were these pulses simply so strong that they spilled into our own radio bands? Inside NASA, whispers grew. If hobbyists could catch these echoes with cheap gear, imagine who else could. Agencies quietly began encrypting parts of their deep space feeds. Live data streams were rerouted through secure servers. Across Europe, Asia, and beyond, space agencies tightened their own listening posts. Even intelligence services paid attention. Could these signals be used as a new kind of broadcast weapon? Could someone intercept, decode, or even spoof them? The idea of electromagnetic security, once the domain of spy thrillers, became real talk in meeting rooms. Out in the wider world, chatter took off online. Reddit threads buzzed with clips of static and decoded sequences. Fringe blogs claimed secret messages hidden in the pulses. A low hum of speculation filled forums late into the night. Meanwhile, NASA's public briefings grew quieter. Press releases slowed. Instead of daily updates, weeks would pass with nothing more than a "we are reviewing the data." Behind closed doors, however, teams worked around the clock. Every echo, every blip, every timestamp was cross-checked against known sources. For the first time, the mystery wasn't just in the void beyond our solar system. It was here, at our radios and computers. And if these echoes were intentional, someone out there was inviting us to listen closer, or to follow the trail they left behind. Searching through dusty archives. If these objects had passed through before, every probe we'd ever launched should have seen them. NASA pulled 50 years of deep space data, searching for any trace. Pioneer, Cassini, New Horizons, all of them. They opened boxes and pulled up tapes that hadn't seen daylight since the 1970s. For weeks, teams sifted through data from Pioneer 10, Pioneer 11, New Horizons, and every other deep space explorer they could find. Each file was scanned for any sign of those 305 objects, or even a single flicker like the one Voyager had caught. In a dimly lit room at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, engineer Maria Ortiz played back recordings labeled background noise and sensor glitch. She leaned close to her monitor, listening for anything that matched the rhythmic loops Voyager's plasma sensor had seen. Day after day, she heard static, solar flares, cosmic dust impacts, every familiar sound of the void. But she heard no dance of objects in perfect arcs, no repeated pulses, nothing, not one anomaly, which could mean either these objects had just arrived or they'd been hiding from our instruments for decades. Both are equally unsettling. Meanwhile, data analysts coded software to hunt for patterns. They fed decades of readings into high-speed computers, looking for sequences that matched Voyager's clean pulses. The program searched for loops of 2 seconds on, 3 seconds off, or any variation of that steady beat. They ran simulations on cluster servers in Pasadena, Munich, and Beijing. Still, they found nothing. One by one, each archive came up blank. Pioneer 10, the first probe to cross the asteroid belt after its March 1972 launch, logged changes in solar wind but not a single coordinated formation. Pioneer 11, which veered toward Saturn after its April 1973 launch, showed occasional spikes in dust hits, but nothing that suggested organized flight. New Horizons, speeding toward Pluto and Arrokoth after January 2006, detected interesting magnetic ripples, yet none matched the precise patterns from Voyager's logs. The more they searched, the colder the feeling in the room. If these objects had swept through before, there should have been whispers in the record. Instead, the archives were silent. It was as if the formation had never existed until this very moment. Some scientists began to whisper a darker idea. Maybe these objects had been here all along, but hidden, a kind of cosmic cloak that kept them invisible to past missions. Or perhaps they lay dormant, only waking when Voyager's golden record sent its greeting into the void. Could the sound of our music and voices have flipped a switch millions of miles away? That thought sent shivers through the teams. If Voyager's voice had called something to life, what might happen next? Would future probes trigger more responses? And could Earth itself face echoes of those signals in ways we hadn't imagined? By the time the final archive was checked, the conclusion was clear. Nothing in our past missions prepared us for this. The 305 objects represented something new in the tale of space exploration. They were not part of any known cycle, nor a stray piece of debris repeating its path. With the historical record empty, the mystery deepened. A fresh chapter of research began, one where every new observation would write history for the first time. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. The headline, Voyager caught something moving in space, and it's not a planet, captured imaginations worldwide as researchers debate its origin. Some believe it could be a relic of an ancient alien mission, an emissary cast off by a civilization long gone. Others wonder if humanity's own robotic scouts have strayed farther than expected, silently mapping the stars. This mysterious object reignites age-old questions. Have other beings launched their own probes into the cosmos, waiting patiently for someone to find them? Or might we ourselves be under subtle surveillance, watched by eyes we cannot see? As Voyager One continues its epic journey at the edge of interstellar space, every new discovery challenges our place in the universe. Could this drifting artifact be proof that we are not alone, or that someone has been watching us all along? Beyond physics. The objects weren't just moving, they were restructuring space around them. Magnetic fields bent into perfect spirals. Plasma streams formed corridors. If they could do this 15 billion miles away, what would happen if they came here? One path led to probes, machines built by an alien mind. Who made them? Where did they come from? How long have they been traveling? And why did they ignore our solar system? The other path pointed to something even stranger. Natural forces or particles we don't yet know, acting outside the rules of physics. Neither choice was easy. If these were probes, it meant we were not alone, and that someone out there was far more advanced. If these were new kinds of matter or energy, it meant our understanding of nature was incomplete in ways we can't imagine. Objects that glide together, send signals, and warp magnetic fields. It was both thrilling and terrifying. One behavior pushed the mystery past the breaking point. As the 305 objects passed Voyager, the local plasma field did more than react. It changed on its own. Charged particles rose and fell in neat waves. Magnetic lines bent smoothly around each object, as though they were steering the space itself. No roar of engines, no burst of flame, just an unseen force guiding them forward. It looked crafted, not random, an artful shaping of the vacuum. The objects weren't pushing through space. They were slipping through an unseen fabric, bending it to their will. It was a mode of motion we've never built and barely understand. Something in the vacuum of space itself must be at work. Soon, the word paranormal crept into lab corridors. Not ghosts or spirits, but beyond normal experience, outside the pages of any textbook. Here was proof that our physics had limits. These events were real, recorded by Voyager's aging instruments, and confirmed by its twin. That realization brought attention back to Voyager One itself. Why was our oldest, most humble craft the one to see this? Its analog sensors, designed in the 1970s and long thought obsolete, picked up what modern detectors missed. Perhaps its simple design was its strength, a boat adrift on cosmic seas, sensitive to the subtlest ripples. Voyager had become more than a messenger. It was a witness. After nearly 50 years in the dark, it had seen something new in the universe. And maybe, just maybe, the cosmos chose this lone traveler to reveal a secret we were never ready to find. Now, as Voyager keeps whispering its data home, humanity waits for the next clue and wonders if we will ever truly understand the rhythm of these alien dancers. Cosmic microphone. The final piece fell into place at 3 a.m. when quantum physicist Maria Rodriguez made a connection that turned her blood cold. The pulses matched her lab's quantum entanglement experiments. Exactly. These weren't just signals, they were quantum transmissions, carrying information faster than light. And Voyager, with its ancient analog systems, was the only thing quiet enough to hear them. Among the plasma wave readings, some patterns didn't act like natural bursts of energy. They were too neat, too steady. Then someone spotted something even stranger. The waveforms resembled quantum oscillations, the same pulses used in Earth's labs for quantum entanglement experiments. On our planet, researchers fire pairs of particles with linked properties and watch them share information instantly. Now those same kinds of signals seem to be flying through deep space. It was subtle but undeniable. Voyager wasn't just catching random noise, it was picking up something structured, intentional, and possibly carrying data. What if the 305 objects weren't just floating past? What if they were sending messages across the void? By pure chance, or maybe by design, Voyager's old-school analog sensors were tuned just right to catch these waves. The deeper the team examined the math, the more it supported this wild thought. The pulses didn't behave like random blips. They repeated in loops, followed harmonic intervals, and hinted at encoded information, meaning packed on purpose. That led to a startling realization. Voyager might be the perfect listener. Modern spacecraft are built with fast digital electronics that buzz and hiss, filling their own instruments with noise. Voyager, by contrast, is slow, quiet, and analog. It has no broadband chatter. It floats in the darkness beyond our solar system, far from Earth's buzz of satellites and radio traffic. Out there, it's a cosmic microphone, catching whispers no one else can hear. This shifted the whole question. It wasn't just about what Voyager saw. It was about why those signals were there. Were they meant for us? Had someone, or something, known we were listening? Or was Voyager simply eavesdropping by accident, like a forgotten radio picking up a broadcast not intended for it? If the 305 objects were sending a message, what did it say? And more chillingly, who was the real audience? The line between natural wonder and alien design began to blur. Voyager had wandered into something we never mapped before, not just a region of space, but a hidden network, a layer of communication running for who knows how long. Just like those 305 objects moving in perfect formation, defying physics 15 billion miles from Earth. Here's what NASA doesn't want you to consider. Voyager's golden record has been broadcasting our location for 50 years. These objects changed course after Voyager detected them. They're not heading toward another star. Drop your theory below, but first ask yourself, if they're already responding to Voyager, what happens when they respond to us? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.